Hey, what's up everybody? So this is going to be the second video, buyer and seller agency changes. If you're not familiar with what has been going on, long story short, there was a lawsuit. Because of the lawsuit, there's some new real estate laws and rules that we have to abide by. I'm going to run through them. I'm going to make this short, sweet, to the point. If at any time you don't understand something, don't worry. I'm going to be linking down below my guide that I'm going to break everything down for you for. It is a free download. Please take it and do whatever you need to do with it to educate yourself. All right, so let's start with some buyer agency stuff. So what is buyer agency? So buyer agency, it's the agreement between the real estate agent and the client that solidifies their relationship. Here's some key changes for that. First thing, buyer agency agreement in general. The old way, we didn't really need one. Here in New Jersey, we didn't need one. We had it, we could use it. A lot of us didn't because it didn't do anything for us. It didn't protect us. Now, no matter what, we need one. It is the law. So if you, as a home buyer or renter, want to go and see a property, you cannot do so anymore until you have this signed, okay? Now, I know you're not gonna like that, but that is what has come down. So that is the first thing. Buyer agency agreement now has to be signed by both parties. Inside that agreement, number 2 is coming a compensation option. So what does this mean? This means now, while you are discussing this buyer agency agreement, you will have to negotiate with your agent compensation for that agent. Why is that? That is because in the event that a seller does not offer buyer agency compensation, that compensation will now come from the buyer's side. Now, here are some notes before you get all up in arms about this, okay? Number 1, if the seller doesn't offer the commission or the compensation, like I just said, it will come from the buyer's side. However, this is a negotiation. This can all still be negotiated. So if the seller offers this compensation to the buyer agent, you don't have to worry about it. If the seller offers compensation to the buyer agent, but it's not enough money to cover what the negotiated compensation was from your buyer agency agreement, you, the buyer, will have to cover the difference. So for example, if you negotiate 3% with your agent and the seller is only giving out 2.5%, that additional 0.5% is going to have to come from you. Okay? Lastly, all agent compensation can be negotiated into the price of the home. Okay, so even if the seller is not offering compensation, your agent can still try to negotiate that into the sale of the home. So don't worry about it. And technically, statistically speaking, right now, I think it's close to 80% of sellers actually still want to offer buyer agent compensation. And I believe that I see that number going up as this starts to move forward. It would be foolish for sellers to not offer buyer agent compensation. It only creates negatives for them. Okay. Moving forward, dual agency disclosure. The old way, the agent, meaning the listing agent, could represent both the buyer and the seller as a dual agent. The new way, if you are an unrepresented buyer and you want the listing agent to represent you, it has to be fully disclosed and agreed upon by both parties in writing. The buyer needs to understand how this is going to affect the representation now. That's going to be another conversation. Get in touch with me if you want to talk about this, okay? Responsibilities. So in this new agreement, responsibilities are clearly defined, not only for the agent, but also for the buyer. You both will know exactly what your responsibilities are and what you have to do during this partnership, okay? Lastly, you now have options. As a buyer, as a client, you have options. You are deciding and choosing to work with this one agent. Now, contractually, you are tied to them. That is the whole point, okay? This gives you, as the buyer, more power. It gives you an opportunity to have someone 100% work for you, and now you know exactly what you're going to be getting from that agent, and vice versa. You're a team. Also, getting back to this whole compensation thing, you can go and direct your buyer agent to tell you, hey, I don't want you to show me homes that aren't offering compensation to you. So when you go out and you see homes, you don't have to worry about the compensation anymore, because your agent will only show you homes where the seller is taking care of the compensation. That's an option to you. There are additional options. I'm just touching on the main options here that I believe that we should know about right out the gate. Let's talk about why these changes benefit you as the buyer. Okay, number one, conflict of interest. So if you don't have your own agent, you're dealing directly with a listing agent who's focused on getting the best deal for the seller, not for you. So they may not fight for the best price or the best terms for you, but when you have a dedicated buyer agent, that person's only job is to make sure you get the best deal possible. They're literally here to protect your interests, okay? Also, negotiating. So it can be tricky, we know this, and if you want someone experienced to do it for you, you're going to want to team up with an agent who is going to be working only for you and not have to worry about this agent also representing a seller. It just doesn't ever end well in a negotiation like that, okay? You need someone who is going to be on your side and your side only. Third thing, access to full market information. So listing agents, they may not give you all the information that you're going to need, okay? But a buyer's agent, because you're working with them on such a full-time level, they're going to provide you with like detailed market data, including comparable sales, neighborhood insights, property history. This way you can make your well-informed decisions without any surprises when you're thinking about putting offers on the homes. Number four, legal and contractual protection. So real estate transactions are full of large, complex details. So missing something could lead to bigger problems. Having your own buyer's agent, they're going to guide you through every step. They're going to ensure all the documents are correct. They're going to make sure that you have that team working with you. Okay, ongoing support, right? Even after you've bought the home, that agent is still there to help you with any issues, any questions. That agent's role is never going to end. And lastly, it's your choice. So despite this agreement, this buyer agency agreement, like if at any time you're not satisfied with the relationship or the service being provided to you, you can terminate the relationship upon a mutual agreement in writing with the agent. So you're not 100% bound to it. You're just bound to it while you're in it. But technically you can't get out of it if you don't want to be in it anymore. All right, let's move on. So in addition to all of those laws, New Jersey passed its own additional laws called the New Jersey Consumer Protection Enhancement Act. Here's a breakdown real quick, the top 6 things that are changing here in New Jersey. Number one, brokerage service agreements are required. So basically the same thing. You need a buyer agency agreement. You have to have it signed, and you can't go see a house until that agreement is signed, no matter what. Number two, designated agency is now allowed. So what designated agency is when a broker can say, okay, I have this listing agent here, they're going to represent the seller, and then I have this additional agent, part of my brokerage, they're going to represent you as the buyer with full fiduciary duties at your request. Meaning, if you go unrepresented to an open house and you go and you want to put an offer in, but you don't want the listing agent to represent you, that listing agent's brokerage can assign you an agent to work for you. I don't 100% recommend it because it's a stranger to you. I really recommend that you do your due diligence, go interview a buyer agent and sign with a buyer agent, but it's up to you. And if you want to go that route, you have that option for designated agency, okay? Third thing, open house representation signage is required. So what this means is that listing agents are now going to be required to explicitly disclose who they're representing at the open houses in the form of signage, either at the entrance or a sign-in sheet for everyone to see. Why is this happening? Because dual agency is going to become more of a thing, we believe, and a lot of people get represented when there's dual agency. I'm not saying this to scare anybody, it's just a statistic. More lawsuits come out of it. So they are making listing agents explain right up front who their primary responsibility is to, which is the seller. Number 4, compensation disclosure changes are now mandated. So what this means is that sellers agents can no longer disclose compensation in the multiple listing service or notify MLSs about cooperative compensation. So that doesn't really mean anything for you as a buyer, but for us as agents now, we're going to have to go and make some more phone calls and get in touch with every single listing agent for any property that you're interested in to find out where that compensation is coming from, whether it's coming from the seller or if it's coming from for the buyer, and then how much it is if it's coming from the seller, because we can no longer see that in the MLS. Number 5, seller's property condition disclosure. Seller's disclosure, as we refer it to, they were not mandatory, but now they are, no matter what. Whether you've lived in the house, whether it's an estate, whether you just inherited it, it doesn't matter. You have to fill one out in its entirety, and it has to be presented before buyers are contractually obligated to a deal. So what that means is if you don't know anything about the house, you still got to fill one out. You just have to fill it out to the best of your ability, to the best of your knowledge, okay? And the final thing, agency added as required core CE topic, which just basically means that realtors are now going to have to go through some additional education every 2 years regarding the new buyer agency changes, so that we can stay up on any changes that come about as this starts to roll out. So guys, that's it. That's all I've got for you. If you have any more questions, please, like I said, download my guide below. There's the link. Get in touch with me if you want to talk some more, 732-598-2672. My name is Dennis Mark. I'm here with Keller Williams here in New Jersey, and I'm always here for you guys. Have a great one.